With the All-Star break just about over and the second half starting later today, I thought it'd be a good time to drop some hot takes. As for these hot takes, they're on all ends of the spectrum. And before we officially get into the video, a few of these takes could be considered sort of dumb, and there are a couple that I think could very well happen, but that's the fun with hot takes. So let's get right into the video. The first take we're going to be looking at today is over in the AL East, where I have the Baltimore Orioles finishing second in the AL East and making the postseason. Now, while this one might seem really far-fetched, I don't think it's too far out of the realm. As I'm sure many of you know, the Orioles have massively outperformed expectations as they're currently sitting at 46-46. Unfortunately for Baltimore, they're in the best division in baseball, so while a 500 record might get them second, maybe third in another division, they're currently in last place in the AL East. But they're not too far of the few teams that are ahead of them. They're only a game and a half behind Boston, 3.5 behind Toronto, and 5 back of Tampa Bay. And obviously, with all three of these teams being in the same division as the Orioles, they're going to have lots of opportunities to get many wins against these teams. And of course, with the Orioles being so bad over the past couple seasons, lots of people are rooting for them and really hope they do make the postseason, so while I'm not going to bank on it happening, I've seen crazier things happen. Getting on to our second take of today's video, I have the Rockies making the postseason. Now, this is one of the takes that you could consider borderline dumb, but I don't think it's impossible. My bias might also be coming into effect with this one because, as I'm sure many of you guys know, I'm a huge Rockies fan. Now, as we stand today, the Rockies are currently 6.5 games back of Philadelphia for the third wildcard spot. And in order to make the postseason, they would have to leapfrog 4 teams, which are Philadelphia, St. Louis, San Francisco, and Miami. But my reasoning for this one is that the Rockies did catch fire before the All-Star break. They were on a 5-game winning streak before losing their last game before the break, and they play at Coors Field, so anything can really happen. Maybe the Rockies just got my hopes up before the All-Star break and really aren't contenders, and to be honest, they might sell at the deadline. I'm not really sure what they're doing. They're kind of that team that's sort of in the middle where you wouldn't be surprised to see them sell or buy. So considering they're not better than the 4 teams they have to pass, I don't think this one's going to happen, but I do like to imagine the Rockies making the postseason. Getting on to our next take in today's video, I have the Seattle Mariners passing the Houston Astros and winning the AL West. As I'm sure pretty much all of you know, the Mariners are the hottest team in baseball right now as they currently have a 14-game winning streak. But even with this 14-game winning streak, Seattle is still 9 games back of Houston. So they definitely have a long way to go to catch Houston, but I don't think it's impossible. In fact, they have quite a few games against Houston to open up the second half. They open up the second half with a 3-game set against Houston in Seattle, and then on Thursday the 28th of July, they have a 4-game set at Houston. So those are 7 games within the first 2 weeks of the second half where Seattle can make up some serious ground. And for those games against Houston, it's going to be so fun to watch because Seattle as a whole is just going crazy right now. Their fan base is just obviously enjoying the ride right now because they haven't had much to celebrate over the past 20 plus years. But with how good Houston is, I would be really surprised to see them collapse over the next couple months and end out the season in second place. I'd love to see it, but I'm not too sure if it's gonna happen. Now for our next hot take here today, this one's a little bit different. I have the winner of the AL Central finishing below 500. Coming into this season, the White Sox were heavily favored in this division as they won it last year and didn't lose too much talent this offseason. But Chicago has gotten off to a slow start this year as they currently sit at 46-46 on the season. As for the top of the division, the Twins currently lead with a 50-44 record. And in second place is the Cleveland Guardians, who have fallen off a bit lately and currently sit at 46-44. Obviously, these teams are going to play a lot over the next couple months, so I really do think this is one of the realistic ones, and I really could see this one happening. The Twins started out the year on fire, and they were honestly one of the best teams in baseball, but lately they've been cold, and they've just been falling closer and closer to 500. So I honestly think every team in this division is pretty evenly matched. Even the Tigers and Royals can steal a couple games from the teams at the top of the division, so like I said before, I think this one is pretty realistic, and I could really see this one happening. Now for our next take today, I'm going with the Home Run Derby champion in Juan Soto, who I have finishing the season with 50 home runs. Over the years, many players across baseball have denied their invitations to the Home Run Derby because they simply didn't want to ruin their swing. Now, I can't speak for the players being just a fan of the game, but many players who have participated in the Derby over the past couple of years have done just fine in the second half and moving forward. And Soto last year participated in the Derby where he got eliminated in the second round by the eventual champion in Pete Alonso. And obviously this year Soto defeated who I think should have been the champion in Julio Rodriguez to win the Derby. And throughout his career up to this point, Soto has been a pretty good power hitter, as in 2019 he hit 34 home runs as a 21-year-old. And as we stand today, Soto is currently sitting on 20 home runs on the season, so he would have to hit 30 home runs in the 2.5 months remaining in the season. And while I would be surprised to see Soto hit 50 home runs, I wouldn't be too shocked. I mean, I think the home run derby is going to do Soto well. He has such a good swing as it is, and he's so disciplined at the plate, and he's just so much more advanced than many players at his age. I think he knows what to do with his swing, and I think he can hit 50 home runs. Next one we have today is a little bit crazy, but I have Fernando Tatis returning and playing like an MVP and propelling the Padres to a World Series victory. Now, the Padres are a really good team top to bottom, but I would be surprised to see them come out of the National League. I do think teams like the Dodgers, the Braves, and even the Mets are a little bit better than them. But the Padres were my preseason pick to take it all and defeat the Blue Jays in the World Series, so I don't know, I think this one could happen. I'm pretty surprised at how good the Padres are even without their best player in Fernando Tatis. On top of that, they have a very good pitching rotation that has been injured for most of the year, so once they get fully healthy, I think the Padres are going to get even better. If Machado and Cronenworth continue to play like this and Profar and Tatis come back fully healthy, I think anything is possible with this Padres team. Now for our 7th and final hot take of today's video, I'm going with Dylan Cease continuing his dominance and winning the Cy Young Award in the American League. When looking at all of these takes today, I think this one is the most realistic. Cease has been absolutely dominant all season long, as in 105 innings he's 9-4 to go along with a 2.15 ERA and a major league leading 150 punch-outs. He's been the clear-cut ace of this staff so far, and he's a huge reason why Chicago is still in contention up to this point. I think he's going to continue to pitch very well in the second half, and I think he's fully capable of putting together some dominant starts later on in the season and taking the Cy Young Award. I don't think Shane McClanahan, who in my opinion is the leading candidate for AL Cy Young right now, is going to slow down in the second half. I just think Cease is going to go nuts. I say that because he, as I mentioned before, has ridiculous numbers on the season and was snubbed to the All-Star team. And in my eyes, Cease is one of the biggest All-Star snubs in recent memory, considering how many replacement players were added onto the rosters. So I think Cease is going to be very motivated heading into the second half, and I think he's going to run away and take the AL Cy Young Award. So there you have some of my hot takes heading into the second half of the season. Let me know what you guys think down below. And as always, if you guys do enjoy this type of content, feel free to subscribe. I post plenty of baseball content on this channel, and I'm going to continue to do so going forward. And lastly, I want to thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.